And what is he doing when he's attacked? He is trying to go to the bathroom, okay? Take a crap, as it's put. And it goes on for a couple of pages, this gruesome description that is, it borders on comedy of him trying to keep his pants up while he is parrying this bayonet attack from this Japanese soldier, and finally getting the better of the Japanese soldier and smashing him to pieces. And here I'll read the paragraph that concludes this scene. First of all, he had to go back to the vicinity of the dead man to get his roll of toilet paper. He hated that, but there wasn't any choice. His pants and his dirty behind were what bothered him most. Horror of that was inbred in him. But also he was terrified someone might think he had crapped his pants from fear. And this part of the power of cowardice is it goes back to our toilet training. Again, remember the single theory to explain everything maniac that you're dealing with. He used most of his roll of toilet paper on that, and in the end even sacrificed one of his 3 clean handkerchiefs which he was saving back for his glasses, moistening it with spittle. In addition, he was spattered with blood and vomit. He could not remove every stain, but he tried to get enough so that nobody would notice, because he had already decided he was not going to mention it to anybody. He wasn't running back to saying, hey, I got me a Jap. He was ashamed of this act of what we might otherwise think of as courage. Fife confesses that he's a coward. He's really nervous about this. And Storm said, so am I, and so is everybody. You ain't a fucking goddamn fool. And there I said fuck to join the rest of you. And then we have Welsh's definition of cowardice. And he says, Fife, on the other hand, while also being a punk kid and an ass, was a coward. Not in the sense that he would shit his pants and run away. He wouldn't do that. He would stay. Fast forwarding to the end of the paragraph, Fife was smart enough to know, or at least learn it, but he wouldn't let himself admit it. In Welsh's dictionary, that is the situation that he was in this war. He was kidding himself. And in Welsh's dictionary, that was the worst kind of coward there was. Last thing. Fast forward to Memorial Day 1970, when the film Patton came out. And this is from the Richmond News Leader of that weekend. And in it, there was a little article about Charles H. Cool, who was the soldier who had been slapped by Patton. And I can't read that, and neither can you, but there's the article to prove that it appeared. Let me just read the transcription of it. He slapped me, this is K-U-H-L, remembering. He slapped me across the face with a pair of his gloves and told me to get back to my outfit. I think he was suffering, he being Patton, from a little battle fatigue himself. And this is what the editors say. And this is next to a list on the previous page. We see a list of prisoners of war, American prisoners of war in North Vietnam. Unquestionably, Cool is correct in this assumption that Patton was suffering from battle fatigue. Patton always drove himself, blah, blah, blah. And so when the exhausted general met the exhausted private, the difference between the slapper and the slappee was only a matter of rank. This shows how accepted the idea of battle fatigue. And my point is definitely not that people who suffer from battle fatigue are cowards. It is that we have, in the 20th century, had an unprecedented displacement of the moral by the medical, for good reasons, I think. And proof of that, or evidence of that, is this newspaper running this story in 1970 saying that Patton suffered from battle fatigue. Maybe he did. Last thing I'll say, Jones, although the thin red line is, I would say, radical in its critique of cowardice, Jones, as in that interview, confessed that this was something he was struggling with, this fear of being thought of as a coward. He wrote of his son, Jamie, I want to teach my boy to be brave and strong, not to run away, to fight back when he has to. Okay? So he didn't want him to be a coward. I'm not sure of the date of this. It's not given in the Asame or Asame biography. Yet I must admit that there's a paradox in my thinking. I also want my boy to be gentle. That's the goal I'm really striving for. And Mr. Elliott's mentioning, I think it was Mr. Elliott mentioning, the thing that Jones was proudest of was that when he was injured, he thought to give the canteen, his canteen to soldiers who would need it. This suggests to me that gentleness was the thing he was most proud of, and the struggle with the idea of cowardice was something that characterized his experience as a soldier and as a writer. So I will end on that inconclusive and perhaps cowardly note. And if you have questions, I'll buy you a drink and we can talk about them there. So.